Hello, my beautiful, beautiful, powerful listeners. I'm so thrilled and honored to have you join me, continue to join me and my guests on this podcast. The stories, the revelations, insights, and value coming through the voice of the underdog has just been absolutely amazing. Never mind the community that's coming from it, you guys. And if you're not in that community, get yourselves in here because I have more love than could fit on the sun, and there is plenty of room at the table. Today, I have Paula Tobey, who's a coach and author, joining me today from Houston, Texas. But she actually lived on the Olympic Peninsula, which is close to my home, which is fun. So her and I have just been chit-chatting and starting to build more of the chemistry that we've had in the exchanges leading up to this. And I'm just so excited to take you on a journey with Paula, who will have wisdom and insight and relatability to share. So welcome to the show today, Paula.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm so excited for the conversation we're going to have. And before I forget, I just want to give you an opportunity to show us this book that you've written, that you're currently promoting, because it's
Sure.
really fun. She's already got it published, you guys. You got to see the video part of it so you can see. But look at this. Look at what this woman's created. Becoming a phenomenal mom, 5 steps to a healthier life, right? So, I mean,
Yes.
this is a whole conversation in of itself, writing a book and now having a hard copy and seeing your name on there and probably your photo on the back cover. But in
Yes.
the right, like what?
It's
It's like
surreal. It's surreal.
it's
Yeah.
so surreal. So you've already raised 2 children and they're sort of launching and starting to fledge the coop now and closing out their teen years and entering their 20s. Um, and so in this book you say that you share your life lessons that that have wisdom to offer, but that you have also created into like a monetizing business. And so you've gone full time into business as of 2021. So we're closing out 2023. So 2, 3 years of doing that. And this is where, Paula, I'd love to hear this before and after kind of experience of that. So I'll be talking, you'll be talking, and I want you to just come on now and share a little bit of um, the story or the beginning stages of what we see today, of how we see Paula Tobey as a full-time coach, as a published author, launching that. And, you know, we see the result, but let's hear about what created that result.
Yeah, sure. So the book is actually my journey to becoming a healthier version of a mom. And I had a lot of kind of life lessons that I started learning when my girls were in preschool. And we chatted a teeny tiny bit about one of the things that I was doing at the time was teaching swim lessons. And
Mhm.
my husband and I were trying to consolidate debt early on in our marriage, and we were following Dave Ramsey. And one of the things that he recommends is to go ahead and get another job, part-time job, or sometimes it's, a couple of things, side hustles or whatever people like to call them. Sometimes that's, network marketing for mothers, or it's
Mhm.
usually a whole host of things. And so I did start my journey then. First, I'm a former teacher, and when I decided to stop teaching full time and stay home with the kids was around the time when I began teaching swim lessons. And so I
Mhm.
went from teaching in a classroom to teaching
Yeah.
in a pool.
Yeah.
And then that journey kind of took a side turn as my health really started taking a turn for the worse. So I was
Mhm.
struggling constantly with migraines and joint pain and IBS, and lots of physical symptoms that were really preventing me. I'm sorry, my dog, from being able to really live the life that I wanted to live.
Mhm.
And my journey to health really started from all of that, from the things that I was learning and the importance of health, wellness, nutrition, and even the connection between how we think and how we live
Mhm.
every day, in our brain and our mind to our gut. And that's kind of what led me to where I am today in helping women to create a healthier life for their families.
Mhm.
And really, for me, I wanted to do it for myself, but I did it really because I wanted to be a better mom to my girls. I was kind
Mhm.
of tired of parenting
Mhm.
from the couch.
Uh-huh.
I didn't, my self-esteem was struggling. I didn't want to be that mom that, that missed the things because she had a headache or whatever. So
Mhm.
really my journey was because of my kids. I went ahead and invested time and energy into figuring out what was wrong with me. And
Mhm.
long story short, it was food related. I had a lot of
Mhm.
sensitivities, and
Mhm.
my gut was very unhealthy. And over a long, long period of time, I learned a lot. And
Mhm.
so that's really what I share in the book, hoping to save moms time and money and agony.
Yeah, 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 of
That's
course,
what it's
right?
all about. Yeah.
So there's so many places we can go with this conversation, but actually save moms time, money, and agony, but really is take care of yourself through life. And whether or not you have children, this is true because without children, oh my God, and I have a 14-year-old and a 5-year-old, and if they weren't around, like, oh, the time I could spend on myself, so called, right? But
Right?
that is blaming or leaning on an external circumstance. And
Mm-hmm.
I love my time at the computer, because this is where I create my coaching programs and and do all the things, right? Not really for the in the real life things yet. No, kidding. Um, but if we take care of ourselves throughout, before it adds up to being something like a big event, and so a message I've been feeling, I'm going to drop here because I feel like it's going to fit in this conversation, is that we don't need a huge event in life to shake us in order to hit a breakthrough, if you will, or apply new knowledge in a different way for a different result.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
what's very interesting in what you've shared is, teaching, paying off debt, pursuing something new, and then these body elements coming in. And somewhere, somehow, well, your why being your young girls, they're little at the time. And, if you don't have kids, I'd say between the ages of 3 to 8, like the work goes way up because they're running around like crazy. You get used to it. Like, I have a stepdaughter and a daughter. And so the little one, I was like, oh, it's easy, baby, feed, sleep, whatever, play. But now she's 5 and like she's running around, has all this energy, right? And
Mhm.
it's more work in that sense because you want to keep up and you need to like exercise them in yourself. So with the why of your children, you started paying more attention to your body because your body was preventing you from enjoying what you had. And this led to your debut, I suppose, as a health coach, right? And et
Yes.
cetera from there. So all of that to say that our body is really like the container within which our cosmos, our spirit exists, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if we don't take care of it, then it will cause a lot of collateral challenges in our day to day life. So, what's the before and after of you having figured this out? I mean, it must have just been so freeing.
Yes, it really was. And kind of how I started off was, I knew I needed to I knew I needed to do something different. And one of the chapters in the book is called Rock Bottom. And it
Mm,
was my hitting rock bottom, realizing that what I was doing was not working. Listening to the
mm,
doctors telling me, take this medicine, you'll be fine. That wasn't working. And I had to do something different. And it was simultaneously that my relationship with God was developing into a greater, more meaningful, everyday thing. And
mhm,
I was learning that he truly could be the one to heal me. Like I'd heard of
mm,
God the Father as as someone that you love and a protector and, all the things. I didn't really get the whole God, the healer
mm.
aspect, mostly because I hadn't received that healing. I had been suffering from migraines since I was 12 years old,
Wow.
and they just debilitated me for years. And as I got older and actually started doing healthier things, I was working at a gym teaching swim lessons, and I was seeing a personal trainer, and I was really starting to tune in. That's when it seemed like the migraines got worse. And
Ah.
what happened was, yeah, my the things that I had been eating were causing issue in my gut, but then even adding in healthier things like spinach and oats and, good healthy things for you, my body was still in such a highly reactive inflammatic state that
Mhm.
even the good things were not good enough to, improve my health.
Wow.
And it was costing me every single day
Yeah.
time away from my kids and
Yeah.
time to be able to be present and do everything that I wanted to do as a mom.
Yeah.
And so finally, I got to that point where I was like, something's got to give. And I ended up on my knees crying to God, saying, I
Mm,
just want this stuff to be related. Please help me
mm,
figure this out. And
mm,
within a matter of 1 week, a week, um, I was able to go to a counselor and lay out all of my things, all of the issues that I had going on, and she came away with, saying to me, "Yeah, I don't think that you have depression. I don't think that you are,
mm.
suffering in those ways, but I think you have food allergies." And I was just like, "What? No."
It's too simple. That's crazy,
And it
right?
did seem strange coming from
Yeah.
her. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever, lady. And
Yeah.
I went, yeah, and I went away and I ate a sandwich and it changed everything. And after that, I had the wake up call that I needed, that rock bottom experience. And that was when I realized, okay, maybe there is something to this. Maybe I am having issues. Maybe I should listen to her. And so I
Mhm,
went back and I
mhm.
said, okay, I don't care what it costs me. I need to figure this out. And so she, at that point, became my dietitian, which she was a
Oh,
registered dietitian.
oh my God.
And
As a
yeah,
counselor as well.
yes,
So a registered dietitian
yes.
in disguise, an angel from God.
Yes, that's
You
exactly
asked,
what
you
it
slept,
was.
yeah,
It's
came through with a
exactly what it
film.
was. And that's what started my whole journey of kind
Oh,
of the aha awakening of needing to realize that, you know, when your body is in its holistic, whole state, it is
yes. Yeah.
healthy. It
Yeah.
is not ever, ever. I mean, we even babies that are born with medical issues, that came from gestationally. That came from the
Mhm,
family. That
mhm,
came from the beginning. And there is so much research today and evidence supporting gut health and how
mhm,
generationally that can become an issue. Um, and so, yeah, I essentially share my journey and everything that I learned along the way. And the culmination was actually in 2017, when my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I
Mm-hmm.
really dove into research and learning all about her cancer, and come to find out it was all related to gut health. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to see connections between many family members, their
Mm-hmm.
gut health and or their lack thereof. And I was able to kind of, realize, okay, all of this is related. If I continue, eating the things that are bothering me and causing these issues, I will end up probably likewise the same way as my mother, my uncle, my dad. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
had a long family history of issue. So I knew at that point I had a responsibility. And so I decided that health coaching full time had to be what my answer was, to help people really understand and to live a different life
Mm-hmm.
that than they were, trajectory, like change the course of your life. It's a really big thing.
Well, I can feel the passion coming out of you in it because of your lived experience and the results
Yeah.
therein. And what is so beautiful and interesting to me is this connection to the body and to the gut specifically, because I like to talk about our source of origin, yes, from God and then through the womb. And
Mhm.
the gut is, a complementary organ to the womb, and they both live in the same area in our body. And it's a very supernatural connection when we think about our emotional and spiritual health and the impact on our body. And it shows up that way. And this is where, people may hear of or experience themselves healing miracles, but it's not medical. It's
Mhm.
supernatural because of the other things that you've released. And
Mhm.
um as I mentioned, I like to sit at the computer and and create, and it's cerebral. There's a lot of spiritual flow coming through that,
Yes.
but I'm not using my body in its beautiful, intended, and its purposeful way,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so this combination of bringing all these parts of ourselves together in
Mhm.
order to live the most robust life, and the changes that we feel. So I'm guessing that with the dietary changes in your life, migraines have dropped away, energy levels have returned, if weight was an issue, balanced out, and even, not to be gross, but like enjoyable digestion and disposal of food being improved as
Norm.
well. Right? Like bloating,
Yes.
gassy, whatever, and
Yes.
just everything channeling in this beautiful, new, cleaner feeling way. And the
Mhm.
spaciousness and the energy that can move through now, that's not bogged up by all this gunk inside, must just be, you know,
It's very enlightening, actually. And that's
yeah.
exactly what true gut health is when you're coming back to that state of homeostasis. That's what
Mhm,
pure true health is.
mhm,
And the the connection between the gut and the brain can live optimally when we are fueling the body with its
yeah.
correct vitamins and minerals and nutrients and all of that stuff. And if our body isn't able to absorb it properly, that's where problems occur. That's where things go wrong.
Mhm,
And the source of that is always inflammation. And the root of inflammation is literally just contraction. Like, if you think about something expanding, that's
mhm,
what inflammation is. And so sometimes, that ends up in the gut looking like, you know gases, and sometimes it's burping or other
mhm,
issues that are going on digestively. And then in the body, physically, the muscles expand, and everything kind of becomes more bloated. And weight gain is an issue, and you mentioned all of that stuff, not to mention how we think. Our brain is
Mhm,
also a muscle, and
mhm.
so
Yeah,
when
yeah,
that
yeah,
happens and is affected, then we cannot live in our optimal state because the whole body is suffering. And
yeah,
that is the one thing that my mom's situation led me to a lot, like I said, a lot of research and a lot of learning, uh really made like extremely clear to me how important it is to educate people on the importance of the gut brain connection, and how when we think and when we act in a way that is optimal for our body, then we live pain free, we live free of ailment. And it's the opposite of that causes the issue. And so I knew at that point that I had a responsibility to
yeah,
help educate and teach people in easy to understand terms,
yes.
right? So they could live a healthier, happier life that wasn't riddled with pain and all the things. So
And I'm already so piqued and drawn in, and I just now want to hand it all over to a gut health conversation, but we won't necessarily do that. Um, but I also just want to take a minute and point out, because you've said it twice now, that you are responsible to share what you've learned. And this, you guys, is where we open up and kick ego to the complete curb and off the planet from ourselves to share our lessons. Because if you want success, don't make it about you. Solve the problem for other people and be in service to others, not worrying about your worthiness and your knowledge and your anything. You have an experience that made a difference and can now teach on that to others who need to hear it from you. So, case in point, right here, right now, live unscripted, listening to you, Paula, talk about gut health and dietary um I don't know, regulation has
Mhm.
softened something or re-piqued a curiosity to an industry that I sort of like, oh, it's too overwhelming. Oh, where do I start? What does it mean? Yada yada. And what I'm hearing from you is how simple it actually is, how there's changes you can make right now as you prepare your next meal, um
Yes.
instantly. And I'm presuming this is where the next level of coaching evolution came from in your journey, is the connection to the other pieces of you. Because if listeners haven't heard, I'm going to self promo, and then Paula, you feel free to do the same. But I have a program out right now called Trinity, and it's the heart, the body, and then the business. And so we're having a bit of fun in those connections, but really the Trinity is the body, the spirit, and the mind, right? And bringing these into unity, or the Holy Spirit and God and the Father, Jesus. But bringing these elements together is where we get that WHOLE, wholeness, holistic success, right? And what good is it if I'm 300 pounds and can't chase after my 5-year-old, but I'm making millions of dollars from sitting at the computer and you know healing and teaching, right? Like
Yes.
that is
Yes.
that is
And
missing.
when we realize that connection, that everything that we do comes of us,
Mhm,
then our energy is part of that. And if
mhm,
we are lacking energy and lacking mental clarity and focus and the ability to get things done without brain fog and without exhaustion and
mhm,
without all of that stuff, it absolutely plays a huge part. And we've known this for years. I just think that unfortunately, because and truthfully, gut health is not sexy. We know, and I
Yeah.
don't mean to use that word in
No,
a gross way, but
no.
we know that when something is peeling, then
Yeah.
it's easy to talk about, right?
Yep.
But gut health is disgusting. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest. And
Okay.
so there's nothing good about people wanting to talk about what goes in, comes out, and
Yeah.
like nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
But the truth is every single day, that's where we have our power. That is where we see, oh, look, I'm a little dehydrated. Oh, I should drink some water. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, there are little things that we can do every single day that affect all of these areas of our life. And when we make those teeny tiny little adjustments, really, truly, big things can happen.
It's so
Um,
true.
Yes. And one of the things that I have found was what I ended up learning from my dietitian. I had a blood test drawn, I had a blood
Yeah.
test taken, and
Yeah.
it showed how reactive my blood was to certain foods. And so that is what I use with clients in order to help them find their base of,
Hmm.
okay, these are the foods that are causing most reaction and causing inflammation and causing, all of the issues. Let's remove those. Let's eat the things that our bodies deem healthy and our bodies use as fuel that's in a positive way. Eat more of that. And then we have a baseline of which to begin of health.
So that is the simplest breakdown I've ever heard.
It is
And
actually.
seems not at all daunting and completely possible. And
Yeah.
in my little awareness of more meaningfully connecting to my body and
Mhm.
what it's telling me, I'm hearing from it, eat more vegetables. And I don't mean that in a cliche way. I just mean that in a my body's craving and now communicating for itself almost as like its own being, and then it responds, I responds in an encouraging way, and it starts to turn the momentum and become easier and easier to then pursue better choices, right? So in the
Mhm.
in the so-called diet industry, we hear a lot of like cleansing fads, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
different
Yes.
things, but replacing one carb for vegetables, you
Mhm.
know, starts to create this shift where now your body and your mind are connecting a bit more deeply, and
Mhm.
the request is being made with less effort to
Yes,
complete it.
exactly. Exactly. And in turn, you have more energy, more like positive output. You think more clearly, you respond quicker, and you literally get your life back. And that's the
Mhm.
whole kind of transformation that I learned, that you really can have this amazing health when you focus on the right things and when you put a little bit of time and effort into it in the beginning.
You get a bigger return, and
Yes.
and then you start to crave more of that. And so what happened like after that sandwich? You said you went to that sneaky registered dietitian in hiding. God
Yes,
bless
my
her.
lifesaver.
You
Yes.
had a sandwich, and then so now
Yeah,
you
I had my
re
rock bottom, and I prayed that God help me make all the connections, and he really did. He started opening up a whole world of knowledge to me that it was there, it just didn't quite make sense. And
uh-huh. Yeah.
with that experience, I was able to realize that I had the power the entire time.
Yeah.
Yes, he was there for me, and yes, he opened doors, and led me on a
Totally.
journey that
Yeah. Mhm.
whatever, but I had to do the work. I had
Yep.
to be the one
Yep.
to claim it
Yeah.
and decide once and for all, I need to do this for me, but more importantly, for my family. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a mom that had the energy and the the ability to play with her kids and not parent from the couch. But when
Yeah.
you are that ill and you are
Yeah.
not physically able, it is a sentence of it's I'm not saying a death sentence or a jail sentence,
Right.
but it
No.
really kind of makes you feel very limited. And it is a very it is a feeling that is almost out of your control, right? Your ability to function and be free is taken.
Hmm.
And all of that kind of came culminating together at the same time. And so what what started off as me, knowing that I needed to invest time and energy into myself, then led me on a journey of coaching. And I decided, okay, maybe teaching in four walls with seats and students is not what I need to be doing now. Maybe my teaching looks different.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm, not even teaching in a pool anymore. Maybe I'm teaching over the internet women. I'm
Hmm.
teaching them how to prioritize their life and how to figure out what's causing what thing and, systematically going through to be able to find that healing. So that is essentially what led me on my journey.
So the things that were happening to you and making that impact drove you to then be in service of it to others. And that has now led to be a monetizable business that you've gone full time in as of 2021, that you say has paid off financially, never mind. And then in addition, in the lifestyle and, the freedom and the impact that you can have, right? Like to have a more enjoyable presence raising your children and having the now capacity to think about yourself through that too. So you guys, if you're not catching that, Paula, was having health issues, got them clarified, showed up as a better mom, and then expanded to start exploring a side of herself as a health coach. And then considering, a career change essentially while still raising kids, while still having responsibilities to um, pay the bills at home and maintain a healthy marriage. And thank you. And I just had coffee delivered to me by my beautiful mother-in-law. Beautiful. It is 6:30 a.m. um and would you, rhetorical question or answer, but would you have had the bandwidth to create and to explore yourself amongst these things had you not spent that time? Like, it sounds like you were getting more and more trapped into your body and finally you just couldn't take it and something had to give, that moment on your knees. And I think one of the big messages and passion I'm hearing from you is let's not get there, guys.
Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly.
saying is
Yeah.
like we don't need this moment on the floor, Elizabeth Gilbert style, like crying out
Right.
moment. We don't need that. Sometimes we're stubborn, no judgment. Sometimes we're, very unaware or very distracted or very outwardly
Yeah.
looking. Instead of, as you said, I had the power within me all the time. I just needed to align to those actions and get quiet to hear some guidance.
Yes. And I
Right?
do believe supernaturally that is what took place. That is when I think God started leading me in a new direction, in that my calling was greater than what I was allowing myself. I
Oh,
felt
say
comfortable
that again.
teaching.
I will really want people to hear that because I have goosebumps and I'm like getting weepy. It's hitting in the heart.
Oh
Say it
boy.
again. You said, no, it's beautiful. My calling is
Mhm.
greater than I was letting myself be.
Oh yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
So this is
He
where you,
showed me
yeah.
that the impact that I really could have on other people was a much larger, much more divine, in
Yeah.
that I was relying upon God to show me. I was going way outside my comfort zone. I
Mm-hmm.
was going into a business, and this was in 2012 when coaching was brand spanking new. You know, there were life coaches, but there really weren't that many people out there doing what I started embarking on
Mm-hmm.
myself. And it felt very lonely and isolating in the beginning. I had to
Mm-hmm.
explain to my husband what I did, you know,
Right.
and he just didn't understand. And he
Yeah.
wanted to support me, but he didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. It was very hard at the time. But I knew that God was preparing me and leading me and opening up paths for me to take if I just would rely upon him and take
Yeah.
that first step.
Yeah.
And so my journey literally was dependence upon him to to do his mission for me. It was
Mm-hmm.
no
Hmm.
longer about me. It was
Yeah.
all about what he needed me to show others. And when I realized that, that's when everything changed. And that is when full surrender took over, and oof, now I'm getting goosebumps myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Reliving it.
um
The
yeah.
so you know 2012, 11 years ago, you guys, 11 years ago, started pioneering, showing up in the internet. I mean, Facebook's maybe what, 15, 17 years old. So this is
Yeah,
very early
early on.
days. You're
Hmm. Hmm.
still, and then the kids are, early double digits,
Oh yeah.
um, still working and now growing this new thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And feeling alive in all kinds of new activated ways. But like Paula's like, I'm here, I'm on stage. And then the whole world's like, what now? You're doing what? Do? Say what?
Yes, and it
Go
didn't
back.
seem to make sense. And if you looked at my resume on paper, you would see teacher and you would see aquatics and you would see, this life coaching stuff, but it all works.
Mhm,
It all goes
mhm.
together. And really come down to it, I am a health educator. Like
Yeah,
that's it all makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. Because the teaching part, this is where we get into that bigger conversation of seeing all of that you are and sort of knowing what your soul or your spirit is here for. And it's for meaningful exchange of love, basically. And we each have a modality, a gift given to us in order to serve that love to others and connect with them. And your resume may not make any sense in applying to perhaps a school or a bank, but it makes sense in applying it under God's kingdom to serve others and in the alignment of all the things that you are, because you're not any one of those things, right? At all. And in contrast and interest, like my day job is dealing with neighbor complaints. So neighbors complain about neighbors and then I go in and sort them out. And it cracks me up because I really am like this sparkly little happy Care Bear unicorn girl. And here I am like, babysitting adults all day. And so these things don't go together, and yet they do, like you say, because it's it's ways of practicing the skills until we listen, until we're ready to receive what we're being told,
Yeah.
and start applying it in a more combined way. So we've talked about bringing our body, mind, and spirit together. Now we're talking about bringing all these little so-called labels that we operate under in life together. And I think that's really the culmination of your book and of you um, adding, teacher, health coach, life coach, because you always had this teaching spirit clearly and enjoyed it. And then as you get to know yourself and heal yourself more, you discover more of what's available, and then can make connections around that. And what's really beautiful about this is connecting the different pieces of us. So if you have a life coach right now, listeners, and they're not teaching about body or heart or spirituality, give them another look as we refresh into the new year, because we can focus on one or a few things at a time, but they should add up to the whole collection in the end.
And I think that one of the biggest ahas that I came away with, after we lost my mom to pancreatic cancer, was the the knowledge that I had is no longer something that I can afford to
Mm-hmm,
sit
mm-hmm,
on and do
mm-hmm,
nothing with.
mm-hmm,
Um, the correlations between people with pancreatic cancer and diabetes are like one in one. So if someone has pancreatic cancer, then they will become diabetic. Or if someone is already diabetic, the chances of them becoming,
mm-hmm,
you know,
mm-hmm.
uh, I don't want to say infected, but
Yeah.
having this happen to them
Self-esteem.
and this disease take of them, there's absolute correlation.
Yeah.
And we know that diabetes is on the rise. We know that, childhood diabetes is like triple what it used to be. And at that point, I realized that, this is way bigger and way more important than
Mhm.
even I was able to at first, grapple with. And I had a lot of kind of soul searching that I had to do and put my own, pride aside and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
just because, I'm not an expert in this doesn't mean that I don't have something that I can share.
Yeah.
And that is how I ended up allowing myself, I guess you could say, to write the book. It
Mm,
felt strange. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a,
mhm,
whatever,
mhm, mhm.
but I knew I still had a job that I had to do. And I knew
Yeah.
that I still had to help people, just make some connections. And that is literally what I believe God does for us every single day when we're willing to accept that as an assignment. He is the ultimate dot connector. And when we allow those things to happen naturally, boy, do they ever happen, you know?
Yeah. So let's hear now, because I mean, I just love everything. Um, this almost 20-year journey, this more recent 10-year journey, and now this recentist,
Mhm. Yes.
recentist, it's a word now, journey in the last 2-3 years where you've gone full time. So the before and after, and
Mhm.
I'm certain that the so-called time, the work has just completely exploded, where you probably look back in amazement of, how was I raising kids and working a job and running a house and creating my coaching business, where now the coaching business has just completely arrived, if you will, and settled in.
It has arrived. And what's fun is um now that I'm in a place to be able to spend the extra time
Yeah.
taking care of it and nurturing it, I think that that is what's so exciting. I'm currently half nesting, and later this year, my senior will be off, and I will have my both of my birdies flew the coop. And at that point, I believe that, my journey is just starting as far as the kind of impact that I could have for other people and the kinds of things that, the doors that God will open. And it's so exciting to me. And it does feel like it's just on the brink of something brand new, and I can't even imagine.
And the other element that I'm seeing is how many moms are excited for their kids to move out? Probably not as many as Paula and I. Like, I mean, I've got a ways to go, but what's beautiful about this and what I kind of feel coming too is again that caring for yourself and knowing who you are, and then you're still going to be showing up as an incredible mom, and your kids will likely have an even better relationship because you're not going to be desperate and like
Yes.
starving for them. Like,
Yeah.
who you are, what's happening in your life, and you can be so present for them because you're not stressed about work, you're not grading papers at 10 p.m., and you now have this lifestyle flexibility where if they're at school nearby, hey, you could meet them for lunchtime coffee and have these really adult interactions with them because you're fulfilled. Your cup overfloweth and spills onto all those around you. And you guys, that is so beautiful. And I just can't imagine, Paula, like you said, you were 12 when these issues started. You must have been in your early 20s before these things started to click. So you lived with that for a long time.
I sure did. Yeah. It made a lot of different things in my life at that time more difficult than it should have. I mean, I battled with migraines in high school. I remember my senior year of college, there was a week straight that I had a migraine, and it was leading up to finals right before
Of course.
the winter
Yeah.
break. And
Right.
it was so bad that I told my boyfriend, my husband now, um, I told him what was going on, and he called his aunt, who's a nurse, and
Hmm.
she arranged for me to get checked into a hospital in Boston with a
Hmm.
migraine specialist because
Hmm.
they were that concerned for me. Um, because I could not get rid of the headache, and everything I was doing was making it worse.
Yeah.
And that was when they did diagnose me. But the truth is that
Wasn't the right
I
one.
still had pain. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
even the right
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So that to me says a lot about how important it is for us to trust our instincts and our gut. And I use this all of the time. Like, there is an absolute correlation between our gut and our intuition and our brain and our thoughts, and it's
Hmm.
all interrelated. And when
Hmm.
we allow that feeling to be present and to use it, how amazing is it that we can just begin to prosper and to grow in new ways?
Yeah. Yeah. And that these experiences are part of the bigger story of how can I phrase this? So that you were experiencing these things that are being diagnosed, but leading off path, and the greater strategy and God's using of you is like, Paula, you're not paying attention. It's the
Yes,
food. I need you
exactly.
to get it because I need you to set others free as a result of what you've gone through. So, what, as we start to kind of wrap up here, although I don't want to by any stretch, but I think you and I will continue on in our various ways online. Um, but what's happening is bringing lessons and is making you that expert, and you can, as we said earlier, show up and serve it forward, and you may bear some beautiful monetizable results, but you're doing it for the passion. If there's one thing that's clear about listening to you today, Paula, is how much this means to you because of the impact it's had on your life, and how certain you are that it can have an equal or greater impact in even just one other person's life,
That's right.
right?
That's right. And I know that if I can help at least one person make these connections and discover that, they truly can be healthy as well, that then I have done what God has assigned me to do. And that to me is so much more of a success story than any kind of financial anything. To me, that part of it is almost laughable, because it's not about that. I actually have a sticker here on my computer. I'm a sticky note queen, and I wrote
Love it.
on a sticky note, being obedient is what honors God. There is no failure in obedience.
Mhm,
And this redefinition of success to me opened up a lot. And I was much more willing to receive,
mhm,
some months, there's not really any money coming in. And then the
mhm.
next month there's more money,
Yeah.
that in that tough place of, influx and all of that. It's not about that. It's about, am I honoring God? Am I being
Mhm, mhm,
obedient to what
mhm.
He has called me? That is true success. And I feel like, thank God. Like I feel like I'm there. Mm,
And that's the faith too. So, whether you're a Christian or your beliefs tie into something else, it's the faith of provision. It's
mhm,
the openness to receive. It is the discipline to obedience. And it is showing up for the sake of showing up. And once you start doing that, you can't not, I
you
mean,
can't not. Mhm.
Paula, what happens if you quit all this tomorrow? What if you quit after we hang up? You're like, maybe not.
I've already learned this, and guess what? He comes knocking again. It does not go away. I have tried, believe me, I have tried. This entrepreneur life is not easy. And especially in those months, like I said, when there's nothing coming in
Mhm,
and you're like, why am I doing this? And
mhm,
then one teeny tiny little
mhm.
thing happens, and all of a sudden it's all worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why. Because it's not about me.
It's not. It's not. And you can't stop once you get going. And, this has been a 20-year in the making journey in
Yes,
your
yes.
story, which I is such a breath of fresh air, which I really appreciate. And I really want you listeners to hold that, to know that it's not about how long, it's about getting there. So forget the timeline
Right.
and do the work. And yeah, you can make things happen faster, but you heal at the readiness that
Mm,
you have to heal.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
That
yeah,
nobody can change that but you, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So if you
And
need
I know
to,
for
then
me, one of the biggest things was mindset. Like that was one of the latter elements that, when my gut was healthier and I could think more clearly and I could do things better and faster,
yeah.
that is when my self-esteem really started raising in that I knew at that point that I could, right? Before that, I I struggled, am
Mm.
I worthy? Do I have what it takes? I'm not even a doctor,
Yeah, yeah,
all those
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? And finally, the culmination in the end was that confidence that God was saying, it is here, it is within your grasp. You
Mm,
just have to go and do it.
mm.
And that was when it all changed. Like, that's, in 2021, when I had that kind of epiphany of, I am all in, there is no backup. There is
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's when that happened. And the confidence just soared.
Um,
And I believe that if people are in that place of struggling or, indecision, indecisiveness, it's
mm,
again a gut thing, like you're the churning and the fretting and all the things. When
mhm,
you can
mhm, mhm,
release that,
mhm.
how amazing and freeing it is.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable experience.
Just gonna breathe that in for a minute. Absolutely eloquently described. I'm not going to go any further because I love the ending, the full culmination of it, and the letting go to make space for what is intended. So, Paula, where's a good place to hang out with you? Do you like Facebook or Instagram? Should we hop
I
into
do
your
both of those.
okay,
Yes,
great.
just Paula Tobey
Yep,
at both of them. And my website is just my name,
yep,
paulatoby.com.
Great.
The book is right there in one of the little tabs. It is available on Amazon as well.
Hmm.
And yeah, other than that, I would say my I'm also doing a podcast, and it's called Phenomenal Living, and its
Oh, wonderful.
purpose is to help women to find their phenomenal.
Yeah, fabulous. And then if we want to work with you, you have links on your website,
Yes,
one-to-one and
yes,
group
sure do.
coaching.
Yep, yep.
Great.
The first thing I would encourage people to do to connect with me further is I offer a little guide that will help them to reduce inflammation and feel better kind of quickly. And
Mhm.
that is one of the quickest ways because then you receive all of the news and updates and all the good fun things that come along with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
wonderful.
that's on my website as well.
Wonderful. Well, we'll put all that in the show notes, as they say in the biz.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And just thank you for sharing all of that. There's so much value and beauty in everything. And I mean, I already feel different having had this conversation with you and around the gut health and around wanting to take better care of my body because it's how I'm going to experience life.
It sure is. And it is how we show up in the world. And again, I believe that when we are showing up as our best, that is how we
Yeah.
honor God. It is how we serve
Yeah.
others. It is how we live
Yeah.
our purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Thank you so much.